What if I told you the loudest message you could ever send is complete silence? No texts, no calls, no explanations, just you, gone. Too often we believe we have to argue, explain, or prove our worth to someone who continues to overlook it. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. The moment you stop chasing is the moment they start noticing. You see, silence is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's choosing yourself, your peace, your dignity, your energy. And that choice, it's powerful beyond measure, because when someone loses access to your presence, to your warmth, your laughter, your consistency, reality hits, and it hits hard. He won't feel your pain until you remove the comfort of your attention. Your silence forces him to face something louder than any argument, your absence. And in that quiet, he'll start to wonder, why isn't she calling? Why is she so calm? Did I just lose her for good? This video isn't about games. It's about power, emotional power, the kind that comes from knowing your value and walking away when it's no longer being seen. So if you're tired of explaining yourself, if you're done being taken for granted, then stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand how staying silent can change everything, and why silence isn't the end of the conversation, it's the beginning of your transformation. There comes a point where you've said all you can say. You've cried, pleaded, explained, repeated yourself over and over, thinking maybe this time you'll finally get it. Maybe this time you'll hear what you're truly saying beneath the words. But he doesn't. He nods, maybe says he understands, but his actions tell a different story. That's the frustrating thing about words. They can be ignored, twisted, or dismissed. Words only work when someone is willing to listen, and not just hear the sound, but truly listen with intent, with care, with empathy. If he's not in a place to value your voice, no amount of explaining will ever get through to him. It becomes a cycle. You talk, he nods, nothing changes. The truth is, people don't change when you tell them what to do. They change when they feel the consequences of their actions. And sometimes the most powerful way to deliver that consequence is silence. Silence is not passive. It's not a cold shoulder. It's not punishment. It's a boundary. It says, I've said all I needed to say. Now it's on you. And the beautiful thing about silence is that it forces reflection. Without the noise, the pressure, or the emotional chaos, he suddenly has to sit with himself, with the version of him that lost you. When you stop talking, he starts remembering. The sound of your voice, the way you cared, the comfort of knowing you were always there. All of it becomes louder in your absence than it ever was in your presence. Words can comfort, but silence creates space for realization. It shifts the energy. It forces someone to think, not just react. Think about it. Every time you explained your feelings, tried to fix things, or gave another chance, what happened? Did it lead to lasting change, or just temporary improvement until things slip back? Sometimes the more you speak, the more someone takes you for granted. They think she'll always come back. She always talks it out. But when you go silent, they no longer have that reassurance. The dynamic changes. Suddenly the emotional labor shifts from you to him. He has to wonder. He has to work. He has to sit in the discomfort you've always carried. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying the entire relationship on your back. It means you stop trying to teach someone how to love you, and you give them the space to decide if they're even capable of it. And if he isn't, then silence becomes your freedom. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop talking and start walking. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You've done your part. Let your silence do the rest. At first, he may not notice. He might even think your silence is temporary, another emotional wave you'll soon get over. He's used to you reaching out, explaining yourself, checking in. So when you stop, the silence feels unfamiliar. But it's in that unfamiliarity that his mind starts spinning. He starts to wonder, is she mad? But then another thought creeps in. Is she done? And that second thought, it hits differently. Because for the first time, he's not sure if you're still emotionally invested. That uncertainty, that's where the discomfort begins. See, when you go silent, you remove the emotional cushion he's always had. You stop being his fallback. You stop being the one who holds the emotional weight for both of you. And now, he has to sit with the very things he never wanted to face. His own behavior, his neglect, his assumptions about your loyalty. He replays the last conversation. He overanalyzes your last message. He scrolls through your photos, wondering if there's someone else. And more importantly, he begins to question his own value in your life. That's the irony. When you were loud, expressive, always available, He felt secure, even if he wasn't treating you right. But your silence, it threatens that security. It forces him into self-reflection. He may not show it right away. He might act like nothing's wrong, post on social media, keep living like he's unbothered. But inside, the cracks start to form. That silence echoes in places he didn't even know were empty. Men process things different. Many don't feel the impact until the energy shifts. And when your energy is gone, it creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, he begins to feel your worth. Not because you said it, but because he's experiencing life without it. He thinks about the way you used to text him good morning, the way you'd check in when he seemed off, the way you forgave him, even when he didn't deserve it. He misses the emotional security you provided, because now it's gone, and he's not sure if it's coming back. The most powerful part of your silence is that it doesn't give him control. It doesn't give him a script to respond to or a fight to deflect. It gives him nothing. And in that nothingness, he has to face himself. Does he realize what he had? Will he try to come back? Maybe. But even more importantly, you get to see who he becomes when you stop trying. His silence in return will say everything you need to know. Because the truth is, the moment you go silent is the moment he's forced to hear the things you stopped saying, loud and clear. Loss doesn't always hit like a thunderclap. Sometimes it creeps in slowly, not with drama, but with silence. And that's exactly how he begins to feel it. Not in a single moment, but in the growing absence of you. At first, he might enjoy the space. He might convince himself that your silence is just another phase. But the days go by, and you don't reach out. No just checking in texts. No emotional safety net. No response when he posts something, hoping you'll see it. Nothing. That's when the weight of the loss begins to settle in. He reaches for his phone, out of habit, ready to respond to a message that never came. He checks your social media, hoping to find a clue, something that says you still care, even a little, but instead he finds quiet. Your silence becomes louder than any fight you've ever had, and it starts to echo in all the places where your presence used to live. Suddenly, the things he once overlooked begin to matter. He remembers how you always checked in when he was tired, how you listened without judgment, how you forgave things he didn't even apologize for. In your absence, he sees the fullness of what you gave, the love, the patience, the consistency, and it stings. Because the truth is, most people don't feel the weight of someone until they're no longer available. He begins to realize that what he thought was permanent was actually fragile, and now it's gone, or at least slipping through his fingers. The silence becomes suffocating, and the more time passes, the more he starts to understand that something is different this time. You're not playing hard to get. You're not waiting for him to come chase. You've withdrawn, emotionally and energetically, and it's real, and that's what hits him hardest. He begins to wonder if someone else is appreciating what he took for granted. He replays the last things he said to you, the careless words, the emotional distance, the way he brushed off your feelings. Regret sets in, not because you stopped talking, but because you finally stopped caring enough to explain. That's when he truly begins to feel the loss. It's not about missing someone who's gone. It's about missing the version of himself he had access to when he was with you. You brought out something in him, something softer, something stronger, something real. And without you, he's left with silence, guilt, and a version of himself he barely recognizes. He may not show the pain openly. He might try to act unaffected. But deep down, the silence you gave him, it's not just space, it's a mirror. And for the first time, he has to face what he let go of, and why he may never get it back. It's easy to confuse detachment with avoidance. On the surface, they may look the same, pulling back, going quiet, creating space. But the difference lies in the intention, and that difference changes everything. Avoidance comes from fear. It's the act of running from discomfort, dodging responsibility, pretending nothing is wrong. It's silence with denial. When someone avoids, they're not healing, they're hiding. They shut down emotionally to escape having to confront hard truths or to delay the inevitable. And the pain doesn't go away. It just builds in the background, waiting for another moment to erupt. Detachment, though, that's different. Detachment is a conscious decision to let go of what no longer serves your peace. Not about suppressing your emotions. It's about observing them without letting them control you. It's not passive. It's powerful. When you detach, you're not running away from the situation. You're releasing your need to control the outcome. You're saying, I can love you, I can care for you, but I won't lose myself trying to hold on to you. Avoidance numbs. Detachment heals. People who avoid tend to bottle things up. They stay silent, but their silence is filled with resentment, confusion, or fear. They ghost conversations, disappear when things get too real, or build walls so high that no one can get through. In the end, avoidance creates more damage because nothing ever truly gets resolved. But when you detach, your silence is intentional. It's not laced with bitterness. It's calm, clear, and rooted in self-respect. You're not trying to punish. You're creating room to breathe, to reflect, and to realign with your values. And here's the real beauty of detachment. It creates clarity. When you stop reacting emotionally to someone who's inconsistent, you begin to see the situation for what it truly is, not what you hoped it could be. That clarity allows you to make decisions that protect your peace, even if they're hard. When you detach, you're no longer desperate for closure, approval, or understanding from the other person. You give that to yourself. You stop looking outward and start looking inward. That's where your healing lives. That's where your strength is born. Avoidance delays growth. Detachment initiates it. So if you're pulling back right now, ask yourself, am I avoiding the truth, or am I finally accepting it? Am I shutting down, or am I choosing to rise up? Because in relationships, one leads to more confusion and pain. The other leads to freedom. You deserve to detach in peace, not avoid in fear. One is a step toward your evolution. The other is just another escape. Choose peace, choose clarity, choose you. When you go silent, you do more than withdraw your words. You withdraw your emotional presence. And whether he admits it or not, that shift lands hard. Men often process loss differently than women. While you might feel the pain up front, he feels it in waves, delayed, unpredictable, and often more intense than even he expects. At first, he might shrug it off, act like he's unbothered, maybe even try to convince himself that you'll come around. But as time passes, that silence starts doing something his ego can't deflect. It starts working on his mind. Psychologically, men are wired to chase what feels like it's slipping away. Your silence flips a switch. You're no longer emotionally available. You're not reacting, not responding, not giving him the attention he once took for granted. And suddenly you've become a mystery. A loss he didn't prepare for, a gap he doesn't know how to fill. He begins questioning everything, not just you but himself. Did I mess this up? Did I push her too far? Was she serious when she said she was done? These thoughts loop in his mind, especially in the quiet moments. Late at night, early in the morning, in between conversations with friends, your absence becomes a mental presence he can't shake. There's also a blow to his sense of control. If he was used to you being emotionally available, the one who always reached out, forgave first, tried harder, your silence disrupts the dynamic. It unsettles his confidence. Now he's unsure, and that uncertainty becomes a mirror. It forces him to see himself the way you may have seen him all along. Emotionally unavailable, distant or careless. Even if he doesn't verbalize it, the psychological impact deepens when he realizes your silence isn't about manipulation. It's about growth. It's about detaching, not punishing. That realization carries more weight than any argument ever could. And if he truly cared, even if he couldn't show it before, that silence begins to feel like loss. Not just the loss of you, but the loss of the version of himself that existed when he had you in his life. You were his safe space, even if he didn't say it. You were the one who stayed, even when you shouldn't have. And now, you're gone, quietly, completely. The mind can't rest when closure is missing. And your silence creates a void that questions can't fill. He becomes introspective, maybe for the first time, maybe too late. But the impact is real. That's the power of silence. It enters the cracks in his armor and speaks to the parts of him that words never could. He won't forget how it felt when you finally stopped responding. Because that silence, it changed everything, including him. Silence isn't always loud at first. In fact, when you first pull back, it can feel like nothing's happening. You might second guess yourself, wondering if he even notices or if it's having any effect at all. But silence is a slow burn. And if you're patient, the signs will come. Subtle at first, then louder. And when they do, you'll know it's working. One of the first signs is the shift in his behavior. He might start showing up in small ways. A like on your post, a random text asking how you're doing, a just thought of you message, out of nowhere. These aren't coincidences. They're attempts to gauge where you stand, to see if you're still emotionally reachable. He's testing the waters because your silence has disrupted his sense of control. Another clear sign is inconsistency in his communication. He might go quiet for a while, then suddenly pop back in, acting overly casual or nostalgic. That's not confidence, that's confusion. Your silence is making him uncertain, and in that uncertainty, he's starting to realize what your presence truly meant. Then there are the emotional breadcrumbs, the half-hearted apologies, the sudden interest in things you care about, or the mention of memories he never seemed to value before. These are all signs that he's replaying your connection in his head and questioning what went wrong. And more importantly, how much of it was his fault. He may even try to provoke a reaction, a vague social media post, hanging out with someone new, and making sure you see it. These aren't signs that he's moved on. They're signs he hasn't. He wants to know if you still care. If your silence can be broken, if you're still watching, and if you don't react, that silence speaks volumes. Another subtle sign is when mutual friends mention he's asked about you. Not directly, never with full vulnerability, but they'll say things like, "He brought you up the other day," or "He seemed different lately." When your name starts appearing in conversations again, that's not by accident. It's because you've created space he didn't expect, and now he's feeling it. But the strongest sign, he starts reflecting, not just acting different around you, but genuinely questioning who he was when he had you. Your silence has become a mirror, and he's finally seeing himself without the buffer of your forgiveness. That internal shift is where real change begins, and your silence made it possible. So if you're wondering whether it's working, watch the patterns, not the noise. The discomfort, the reaching out, the sudden presence after absence, all signs that your silence is doing exactly what it was meant to do. And remember, your silence isn't just being heard, it's being felt deep. It's easy to want revenge. When someone hurts you, dismisses your worth, or walks away like you never mattered, the most human reaction is to make them feel what you felt, to show them they lost something valuable, to make them regret ever letting you go. But here's the truth. Real power doesn't come from revenge. It comes from growth. Because revenge keeps you tied to their energy. Growth sets you free. You're not here to prove a point. You're here to heal, to evolve, to become so deeply rooted in your own self-worth that their validation or their absence no longer controls your peace. And when you focus on yourself, truly focus, you start to realize that the silence wasn't just for them to feel the loss. It was for you to find clarity. You're not staying silent to punish. You're staying silent to protect your energy, to reconnect with your values, to remember who you are when you're not constantly trying to be enough for someone else. That is growth. That is strength. Revenge says, "I need you to hurt like I hurt." Growth says, "I no longer need you at all." And when you shift your focus from making him feel your absence to making yourself feel whole again, everything changes. You stop watching for his reaction. You stop checking if he noticed. Instead, you begin investing in your healing. You pick up the book. You go for that walk. You reconnect with friends. You create something, build something, learn something. Every little act of self-nourishment is a declaration. I'm choosing me. And ironically, that's when they often feel the loss the most. Not when you try to trigger them, but when you no longer need to. Growth is silent, but undeniable. It glows in your energy. It's reflected in the way you carry yourself, how you respond or don't, and how you hold your boundary. It's visible in the way you no longer chase closure from someone who wasn't capable of giving you what you deserved in the first place. So don't waste your silence waiting for revenge to kick in. Use that silence to build, to rise, to become the version of yourself that looks back and says, "I didn't just survive that, I became someone stronger because of it." Because healing isn't about showing them you moved on. It's about no longer needing to. Let your growth be the loudest thing they never expected. Silence is powerful, but it's not passive. It's not about sitting around waiting for them to notice your absence. It's about shifting all the energy you used to give to them and redirecting it back to you. Because while you're silent, there's work to be done. Inner work, growth, healing, rebuilding. The silence you've chosen isn't a pause, it's a transition. A chance to reclaim all the pieces of yourself you gave away trying to hold something together. And what you do in this space determines who you become after the pain. Start with your mind. Pour your thoughts into a journal, not into a text you'll regret sending. Let it all out, the anger, the sadness, the questions. Because when you get those emotions out of your head and onto paper, they lose their grip on you. You make space for logic, clarity, and peace to move in. Re-establish your routine. Take your mornings back. Start doing small things just for you. Go for walks, breathe deeply, drink water, move your body. These might sound simple, but they're grounding. They remind you that you are here, alive, healing, and that your world doesn't revolve around someone else's presence or absence. Reinvest in your passions. Maybe you forgot what makes you feel alive outside of the relationship. Now's the time to reconnect with it. Whether it's painting, traveling, building something, learning a new skill, give yourself permission to exist for yourself. Not as someone's partner, not as someone waiting, just you. Reconnect with people who remind you of your worth. Not the ones who ask about him or stir the drama, but the ones who pour into your cup. Your people, your support. Be around energy that doesn't ask you to shrink, apologize, or explain. And most importantly, sit with the stillness. Learn to be okay with the quiet. You don't need to fill it with distractions or run from it. The silence is where your transformation begins. It's where you meet the version of you who's not defined by heartbreak, but by resilience. While you stay silent, you're not doing nothing. You're building strength, day by day. You're reminding yourself that their peace isn't negotiable, that your worth doesn't need validation, that walking away and staying away when you're being devalued is a kind of self-love most people never learn. This time is yours. Don't waste it watching the door. Use it to become the version of yourself that doesn't chase, because she knows she's the prize. Let your silence grow you, not just protect you. Silence is often misunderstood. People see it as weakness, avoidance, or giving up. But in reality, silence can be the loudest, most powerful message you send. It's not about being passive or disconnected. It's about choosing your peace over chaos, your dignity over desperation, and your healing over hurt. Letting silence be your strength means reclaiming your power in a way words never could. It's the courage to walk away without yelling, to say no without shouting, to hold your boundaries without explaining yourself. It's a refusal to engage in games that drain your spirit, and instead choosing calm as your battle cry. When you stay silent, you aren't ignoring the pain. You're honoring it by not allowing it to control you. You're showing yourself that your self-worth isn't tied to someone else's approval or presence. This kind of strength doesn't need validation. It grows quietly but fiercely from within. You might wonder if he notices, if he feels the absence, if the silence is working. But ultimately, the question isn't about him. It's about you. Are you becoming stronger, more centered, more aligned with your truth? Are you learning to stand alone and feel whole? Because that's the real victory.